This is actually a cast of the first T-Rex skull ever discovered.
Oh, wow.
At the American Museum of Natural History, we discovered T-Rex here.
That's a lovely bragging right.
Objectively the coolest scientific object in the museum, maybe in the world, in my opinion.
Hey everybody, Adam Savage, and I am at the American Museum of Natural History with Roger Benson. Roger, tell me where we are. We're not in the main museum space here.
Yeah, we're in the fossil prep lab. So this is the place where, you know, we go out in the field, we discover new things, new fossils, and we bring them back, but then there's a lot of work to do extracting the fossil from the rock. So this is really where a lot of discovery happens, and like this is the heart of it.
So this isn't just a display preparatory room, this is a research room.
Yeah, this is to do with research.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't know everything about all extinct animals that ever lived. Earth's been around for a long time. And, you know, there were countless animals in the past, and our goal as paleontologists is to find their fossils and understand them and what they're telling us about evolution. And in order to do that, we need to extract them from the rock. And so often when we bring things back, we don't actually know what they are quite.
Yeah.
And so, like, we get pretty excited about stuff that's going on here as well.
And they arrive to you in plaster like this?
Yeah, so when we're in the field and excavating things, we don't actually extract the bone completely from the rock in the field. In fact, a lot of the time we want to expose it as little as possible. And that's because the rock is protecting the fossil.
It's holding it all together.
Yeah, and we want to bring the rock with the fossil back to a controlled environment where we can work on it carefully exposing the bone so we get the best fossils.
Right.
In order to do that, we make these structures out of plaster and burlap.
It's just plaster of Paris and cloth as a binder. And
exactly, and that holds it all together. We bring it back here, and that's where the real work of exposing the fossil goes on. So you can see them here. These are partway through the process. So originally, when they came to the museum from our field work, the fossil and the rock would be entirely enclosed in plaster and burlap.
Yeah.
And then in the fossil prep lab, the preparators open those field jackets and then start slowly to remove the rock from the bone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How thrilling.
Yeah, and it's like Christmas time.
I was going to say, and I was looking down at this before we were filming, and this is of the diagram of bones and the large thing here. It's almost exactly what like 9-year-old me would have thought we were doing in this room.
Yeah. So this diagram, we made a series of field jackets.
Okay.
And they are enclosing the tail of a giant sauropod dinosaur.
Gotcha.
So this is a big 4-footed herbivore that maybe it weighed 30 tons, something like that. So it's the size of, I don't know, 5 elephants maybe. And this is just one of those field jackets with part of the tail.
Yeah.
So you can see the sequence of vertebrae articulated with each other. But, you know, I guess if you follow it out and keep digging, we hope to find the rest of the animal.
Are you guys always, or is there's folks always in the field generating these field jackets and sending these back to various institutions? How much are you working with that is recent excavations and how much is super old?
Yeah, so the museum does countless expeditions a year of all types.
Right.
In paleontology, maybe we're doing 10 expeditions a year between everyone in the department.
Wow.
And we discover new things, but we also have, you know, an amazing legacy going back more than a century of museum scientists going out and collecting fossils. And the truth is, we didn't quite finish the work on all of those fossils even.
So there's jackets going back 100 years?
So there are old jackets that were never opened. That's not so common. Like most of the jackets we ever collected were opened. But some things are kind of in a halfway state where we know what we've got and we can look at it, but it's still partly enclosed in rock. And when we'd like to know more, we need to remove the rock. And technologies are changing as well.
Yeah.
So in the past, if you wanted to know what was in a field jacket, you had to open the jacket.
Oh.
But now for smaller jackets, we can use 3D X-ray methods, so CT scanning. And we have a suite of CT scanners in the museum. So actually, a lot of the jackets we bring back now, we'll scan them first. And that allows us to prioritize and study the things that we find the scientifically most important first as well.
There must be ways in which being able to look through it virtually is even better and less destructive than going through it physically.
It's certainly less destructive. There are some cases where, you know, if something's too big or too dense, the method doesn't work well.
Right.
And there's still no substitute quite for looking at a physical object.
Yeah.
Different neurons fire in the brain.
Sure, yeah.
I'm not a brain scientist, but the way we engage with it and understand the anatomy is different. So we'll never quite replicate having the ability to look at the real fossil.
Copy.
But it's a really useful tool for knowing what we've got. sometimes we have something incredibly fragile that's
Yeah.
in the field jacket, and knowing that in advance is incredibly valuable.
I'll bet. Knowing how to take care of it as you open
Exactly.
it.
So we can make a plan.
So if it's like Christmas, every time you're opening one of these, is there a regular occurrence of like somebody in this room going to somebody else and going, check this out?
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Sometimes when we make a field jacket, we know what we're trying to collect.
Yeah.
But, because we're trying to not expose too much, not remove too much rock, sometimes we caught something else as well.
Yeah.
So we have a new dinosaur that's about 150 million years old from Wyoming, from the Morrison Formation, and it's a little predatory dinosaur. It's about the size of you or me. And some of the first bones of that were found in the field jackets with the bones of a bigger herbivorous dinosaur, this animal called an ornithopod.
Yeah.
And we found part of the jaw, that we call the maxilla, part of the upper jaw, and part of the pelvis, the ilium, were just in jackets that we made to catch like other dinosaur bones. So you've got this smaller dinosaur whose bones we're finding in our field jackets in the lab.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and we got super excited about that.
I bet. Can you walk me through some of the stuff you guys are working on in here?
Yeah, so this is Vern. Vern's one of the preparators, and he's actually got one of the bones of the new dinosaur. And we actually collected this bone last month. So we're excavating and finding bones of all kinds of other dinosaurs, but one of them was the bone of the new animal. So he opened this morning, because we only got it back to the museum last week.
Wow.
And this is actually the underside of the fossil. So in the field...
What you saw was the other part.
Yeah, and we exposed quite a lot on the other side.
It's all drawn.
Yeah, and we drew it on.
Oh.
It's very scientific.
Really helpful.
We wrote what it was.
For sure.
So most of that is exposed, but we like to start from the back where there's not much exposed. And then over the next week or two, he's going to be removing the rock. And then we'll, in the end, have the complete bone. So I can show you some other things that are going on. This is most of a dinosaur skeleton. In fact, what you're seeing here is this is the neck. On this side, these are the shoulders. That's the shoulder blade, the scapula. This is the pelvis, and that's the hind limb coming out.
Right.
This is where a sample has been removed in order to understand the microstructure of the bone, which, as you grow and as dinosaurs and other animals grow, the bones get bigger.
Right.
Adding bone to the outside, and that preserves a record of the growth of the animal.
Like tree rings.
Like tree rings. And it means things like we can tell how old the dinosaur is, or how long it was growing for at least.
Right.
And understand, one of the revolutionary things paleontologists learned from that in the 1990s and early 2000s is dinosaurs are growing fast. So they're growing much faster than other reptiles.
Huh.
Not quite as fast as mammals and birds of the same size, but they're much faster metabolically active animals than previously people imagined. And this animal, there's a picture of it here as well. There's a separate jacket that has the rest of the neck and the skull.
Okay.
And this is a late Cretaceous dinosaur from Mongolia that lived about 70 million years ago. I call it Oviraptorosaur. And there are close relatives of this animal that are actually preserved sitting on nests of eggs.
Wow.
But this is, a lot of dinosaurs. We think of dinosaurs as giant monsters, but you're seeing a lot of dinosaurs were the size of us.
Right. Right.
There's a lot of bigger dinosaurs. And the smallest dinosaurs weighed about 1 pound. And the smallest dinosaurs apart from birds. Obviously birds can be smaller than that.
Wow.
And it's often the small things we don't know as much about, actually, because the fossils are more fragile.
Hang on, before we move on, I'm just curious about your cabinet of curiosities here.
I'm curious about this too, the museum's been around for a while. It was established in the late 1800s. And people have been doing paleontology here basically since the founding of the museum. And this cabinet has, a lot of historical objects. Some of them are related to attempts to communicate the science that we do here to the public. So, models of dinosaurs in life, materials that people used to do various things over the years, things like museum labels that aren't in use anymore. This is an early model of T-Rex.
This is what they thought T-Rex looked like.
Yeah, the difference being now we know instead of the back sloping down and the tail dragging along the ground, the back was horizontal and the tail was elevated in the air. The museum has, more than 30 million specimens and scientific objects. So, not all of those are fossils. There are collections of geological objects, meteorites, living animals, so insects, clams, everything you could think of.
Amazing.
So this is a cast of the skull of T-Rex.
And where was this one discovered?
This is actually a cast of the first T-Rex skull ever discovered.
Oh, wow.
So Barnum Brown, who was one of the early paleontologists working at the museum,
Yeah.
he's actually the guy who discovered T-Rex. So at the American Museum of Natural History, we discovered T-Rex here.
That's a lovely bragging right.
He discovered several partial skeletons that were parts of the body, and in 1908, he discovered the complete skull.
And that's this.
And for 40 years, that was the only skull of T-Rex anywhere in the world. And this is a cast of it. Actually, it's objectively the coolest scientific object in the museum, maybe in the world, in my opinion. And the real skull is actually on display in our permanent exhibit.
Oh my God.
So when people visit, they're seeing that.
Is this just here on display?
This is just here. I don't know why this is here.
Fair, totally.
Here, we have a number of casts of this skull, and it's nice to have them around. And
I agree.
Know.
I have one in I have a casting of Sue in my office.
Yeah,
I
that's a
like
really
having
cool
her
fossil.
close by.
Yeah, it's an iconic thing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have it available for us to see and remember, what's cool. We're doing this.
Well, and also, when I'm near this ever, I'm always like, this is weird to be this low on the food chain.
Yeah, these are big animals. I mean, this head, if you curled up and it was just empty inside there, you could fit in there.
Wow, right.
Like this animal, T-Rex weighed 6 tons. So it's the size of a really big elephant, but unlike an elephant, wants to eat you.
Yeah, right. And elephants can move fast when they want to.
Yeah, and they're strong. This is a fossil that we excavated in 2017 in a big field jacket. And actually, we only just got this back to the museum. So we only just managed to ship it back here in the last month. And one of our preparators with some of the museum volunteers is working on exposing this fossil. And I mean, what do you see here?
Well, it looks to me, I see a rib cage. Am I right? No, it's vertebrae.
Yeah, vertebrae. There are some ribs. There's some ribs up there.
Oh, okay. It looks to be it's very deteriorated.
Yeah. So we often find, the fossils, when they're in the ground, they're not always pristine.
Right.
Because remember, the animal, it died, and various things are happening before it's buried.
Right.
And before it's fossilized. So in this case, because the sediment is soft, we sometimes find that there was a lot of fragmentation and deterioration of the bones that's happened, and it actually probably happened in the Jurassic, so 150 million years ago, before fossilization. So the bones aren't always pristine, but nevertheless, they can tell us a lot scientifically.
Yeah.
And what you've got here is this is actually the kind of hindquarters, so the pelvis. This is the back part of the trunk, so this part of the animal with ribs. This is part of the pelvis. And the vertebral column running through. So these are parts of the sacrum.
Okay.
That's the part of the vertebral column that attaches to the hips. And that's important because then when the legs move, the animal moves forward. And these are parts of the tail continuing.
The tail had a large fin on the top of it.
Yeah, well, the vertebrae of the tail are often quite deep, and they have these structures coming up.
Okay.
We call them neural spines, and there's connective tissue attaching them together. It's telling us the tail is quite deep.
Right.
They probably didn't project out of the body as spines, though.
So it's more like
they're internal structures, and we have them, but they're short. And if you feel the bumps along your back, that's what those structures are. They're the tips of the neural spines.
So is there a jacket that describes the other half of this creature?
Sadly, we don't always get the whole dinosaur. But this is really interesting because it's quite a small individual of what would be as an adult a giant herbivorous dinosaur.
Right.
So it's from the assemblage that includes things like Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Camarasaurus, which are relatively famous North American dinosaurs. So it probably belongs to one of those animals.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is quite yet, but it's a relatively young, smaller individual.
Just in my brief exposure to these jackets during this tour, it looks to me like this one is very difficult to determine what is rock and dirt and what is bone.
Yeah, so you really get your eye in after a while, and it becomes easier to tell.
Okay.
But there's the potential to make mistakes if people don't go carefully and have that knowledge. In this case, because the bone's it's deteriorated a little beforehand, it's relatively harder to work on than it would be if the bone was pristine.
Right.
But they're doing a really great job here.
Just very slowly working through.
Not so slowly. I think people have an idea that it's achingly slow and doing something
I do
like this
have
might
that
take
idea.
years. In reality, people have been working on this for just a couple of weeks, and they've made amazing progress. And it's really cool to see this fossil that we first excavated in 2017, like to finally actually know what we got.
Yeah.
So people are excited about that.
Now, years and years ago, I got a tour of the back stacks here, and it was explained to me that there were likely more dinosaur bones encased in field jackets than there were grad students for the next 20 years.
It may be true. Remember, an animal skeleton has more than 200 bones.
Right.
And like, how many graduate students are there studying paleontology every year? So it's actually quite easy for there to be so many bones,
Right.
that are still like in the process of discovery, partway through preparation.
That must be thrilling that you're still doing work that was started sometimes more than 100 years ago and
Yeah.
continuing that exact line of research.
Sometimes, and people collected amazing things in the past. We collect amazing things today. Those projects that got partway through, and we might have a bunch of jackets, 10% of the jackets left over from an excavation. We can still discover new things in those. So one of the American Museum of Natural History excavations in the mid-20th century, they actually found skin and like other soft tissues of sauropod dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So these big herbivores like this one. And they only got partway through preparing the fossils, but that's actually really good for us today because now we can go back to those jackets.
With better technique.
Yeah. And like understand like what the soft tissue that's preserved in those fossils is really telling us.
Are you guys able to extract any DNA material from any of the soft tissue?
Well, that would be nice, but sadly not. I mean, DNA specifically, it's a particular biomolecule that you get in organisms. Like we have DNA, all organisms have DNA, in fact. But it doesn't last for that long. So our oldest DNA is about 2 million years old now, and that's actually what they call environmental DNA, that's actually preserved in the poop of Arctic ground squirrels. So they don't take it from the bones, but the squirrels going around eating a lot of things from the environment, not just plants, but also bits of carrion, insects, other things, and all of that. So it's gathering data from the environment, and then
a little data sponge.
Record this stuff. But that's the oldest DNA. That isn't work that we did here. It's the work of other scientists. But that's the oldest DNA that's so far preserved.
Are you able to witness any other cellular material from that far ago?
Yeah, so organisms have many different biomolecules.
Right.
And some of them are much tougher than DNA, and they can be preserved. So sometimes with fossilized skin, for example, sometimes we also get the fossilized pigment cells called melanosomes.
Yeah.
And they're really tough. Like chemically, they're a little tough like wood is.
Yeah.
And you can get fossils of wood as coal. You can also get fossils of the pigment-bearing cells of the skin. And actually, there's a long list of other biomolecules that might be preserved.
Right.
Often not pristine, but slightly altered in fossils. And it's kind of at the cutting edge of our science at the moment to try and understand the record of those biomolecules and what they're telling us.
Yeah.
So for a few years ago, for example, there was a paper came out reporting possible molecular evidence for warm-bloodedness in some dinosaurs.
I remember this.
And that's based on relatively degraded biomolecules. And it's still kind of up for contention. It's pioneering work and we have a long way to go. But it's a really exciting prospect that some of the chemical processes that characterize dinosaurs as animals and can tell us about their biology, that we might actually have a record of those in some fossil bones.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Roger, I really appreciate this tour, and it's really clear to me that you really love this work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm the luckiest person in the world, probably.
Amazing.
Possibly.
Dude, it's super, super inspiring. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you so much for watching that video. If while watching any of my videos you like any of the t-shirts that you see me wearing, well, you can go buy them. And there's two places you can get them. First, you can go to tested-store.com, a web address that my crew laughs is one of the hardest things for me to remember in my whole brain. But now they've given me a second URL. You can now go to adamsavage.com and buy any of the t-shirts you see me wearing on this channel. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff there too. Thanks.